Hello, everyone. Good morning. I hope everyone's had a great morning so far. My name is Nathaniel Collum. I am a senior product manager here at Better Cloud. I work on the product team with the engineering team exclusively on our automation suite. And I'm here to talk to you this morning about taking control and user lifecycle management and what it would look like if we automated it. I can't wait to dive in and show you some of the amazing things that we've built, that my team specifically has built. I think you guys are really going to get a lot out of this. So let's get started. So as you guys are aware, there are really two types of IT environments, right? Essentially there's the homogeneous environments and the heterogeneous environments, and you guys are going to be very familiar with these. So the first one, right, in a perfect world, we could all use the applications that are native to the tool that we bought, right? We'd be able to leverage every single Google App service, or back when you were on Office 365, or if you're still using it in a hybrid environment, all of those apps would be, you would have 100% penetration across all your businesses, and you would be using Hangouts for chat, Drive for storage, Hangouts for video, that sort of thing. But the reality is obviously quite different, right? You end up looking something more like this. And so this is what we see when we talk to you guys in every single conversation we've had. We see more and more, we see that you're using Gmail for email, obviously, but you're using Slack instead of Hangouts. You're using, or let's say you have a big Atlassian or Jira presence in your office, and so you're using HipChat, right, for that. And so, or you're using Dropbox for storage. Let's say your marketing department needs something with a little more reliable sync, or you need something with you need more storage, and storage is cheaper on Dropbox. You're able to, you end up spinning up those instances. And really what you see across the board, from productivity, ticketing, telephony, video conferencing, you're essentially buying the best tool for your team. Or as we've seen with what we call shadow IT, or what you've heard referred to as shadow IT, you end up buying, the team themselves end up buying the best solution for them. Which in a lot of ways creates a problem for you, either from a security risk or from a licensing cost risk, that sort of thing. And really this is what we're seeing. And when we asked people in our Trends in Cloud IT report and survey, we said, what we saw is that in 2015, just last year, there were 8 SAT cloud applications that were under IT's control. And so when we look at the trends, we're seeing that that's going to more than double just next year. Right? And just going back to the previous slide, you can see that that could easily happen just in a single year. So what I want to do is I want to take us through a scenario, right? And so with the typical user, we've got Uma Lynn Monroe here. She joins Pied Piper in 2016, right? And then we'll jump ahead to 2021 where she leaves, right? And for lifecycle management, this is what a lot of people talk about. They talk about, okay, yeah, onboarding, offboarding, but there's really so much more that we end up having to do when we are working with a user, right? And so let's just go through a few scenarios here, right? So in the very next year after joining Pied Piper, she gets married, right? And so now you have to change her last name across all of those SaaS applications. So let's say you were using 8. By the time if our report is correct, by 2017 you'll be using, maybe she has 17, 18 different SaaS applications that she has to, we have to update and update that identity across, right? The same thing is true. Later that year she moves from a marketing role to a support role. And so now she did have access to marketing related documents. Now she's got to have access to support related documents. She had, let's say she had a Salesforce account. She doesn't need that anymore. She needs a Zendesk account because you use Zendesk for outside ticketing. All of those things are things that you guys typically, what we hear, are doing manually. And that's completely outside of even the onboarding and offboarding piece of a user. So very next year she gets promoted to manager. Now she has people that now her access across all of those applications needs to change. Maybe she even manages people within those applications, like Zendesk or like Salesforce or Drive. Maybe she should have a particular permission type on a certain set of documents based on her role or her title in the organization. And then later that year, Pied Piper rebrands to Pi, and so what you see is and now your primary domain becomes a secondary domain. There's a new pi.com that you have to deal with. There are aliases that have to be distributed across all of those identities. And so what we see is just like many challenges. We can go through. We won't go through all the 2019. Which is very common and very easy to happen. She loses her laptop. Later on, she has to take maternity leave because she has a beautiful baby boy, and you have to delegate her email and make sure that while she's away, that her access to her documents is still available, that her reply to email is set while she's away. And then also in 2020 she returns, and then all the way down to when she leaves, and you have to figure out, okay, who gets her stuff, right? What should we do? Does she have to be on legal hold? Does she have to, do we have to revoke access? We have to transfer her documents. So you can see, just even in this relatively simple example and really relatively brief example, that the realities of managing a single user across what is really and truly a short span of time is significant, right? And it's a significant amount of time. We're going to dive into some of the challenges. I can't wait to show you what Better Cloud has done to address these challenges. But really and truly, just look at it and imagine this times by however many employees are at your organization. So that was just a single person, right? So do this for every single person in your organization, and you guys know better really than anyone else. This stuff is time-consuming. It's error-prone, and it's laden with security risk. And I say time-consuming obviously because someone is having to do all of those individual tasks, either from a ticketing perspective or whatever, because you might have different steps. I mean, imagine Google's admin console alone can be challenging, and now you're managing 18 admin consoles. It's really challenging. You're definitely going to make mistakes because just learning. I've been working in the Google Apps space for several years. I've been with Better Cloud for over 3 years, and even I still have to click around to find things in the admin console. You're definitely going to make mistakes, and because there are all these identities spread across all these SaaS applications, it's possible that their sharing settings might not be correct. It's possible that they don't have things shared out correctly. So there's definitely security risks. So if you could imagine for me what it would look like if you were able to automate user lifecycle management. What if you could truly take all of those things that we just went over and create systems or rules or automations that would address those particular problems. And here's what I think it would benefit you as the IT people. I've heard this. It's not something that I think. It's something that I know. I've heard it directly from IT admins that I've spoken with. Obviously, the first one's obvious. You have extra time, right? You get to focus on higher value work, meaning like because you have extra time, you're not dealing with resetting passwords, making sure sharing settings are correct. You're doing things that are complex, that can't be automated, that require your technical skill and know-how. It's one of the things that we've talked about internally a lot. It's a problem that we care a lot about at Better Cloud, is that that companies hire technically skilled IT admins with a diverse set of skills, and these really intelligent people are spending all their time making sure people are added to the right groups, and that just seems really silly. And you have peace of mind because things are automated, and really you get to focus on the things that not only matter to you in your role, but you might even be able to spend time on becoming better at something. And I love this last item of becoming the hero. So much when I speak with IT admins, so much of what you're doing is you're being reactive. You're reacting to a problem, you're reacting to a request, and if you're able to just automate things and make things easy, if you're able to easily say yes to a request because you know you can automate that solution. It's not going to be a problem for you. It's going to be easy. It's going to be stress-free. You're able to say yes more. You're going to become the hero. They're going to love working with IT because you get things done, right? And the benefits to your organization are apparent as well. If you could automate this, they're going to save money, right? Because you are getting rid of licenses that you don't need. Your users are appropriately managed. Your drive storage is appropriately managed. Your identities across all of these places, and you're able to create these sort of best-in-class internal processes. We heard this awesome example speaking with a customer where they were able to actually send, just based on a single email, they were able to send like a hoodie or a T-shirt to their new to someone they had just hired, right? And so imagine if you could automate that, and you could say you could be a partner with HR and say, yeah, just let me know either through our HR system or via an email that the person is joining, and we'll get the email kicked off, and the hoodie will be automated. That actually happened to me at Better Cloud when I joined. Someone someone mailed me a hoodie, and it was a great feeling to feel like, oh wow, I'm part of this really cool team. They sent me something really special, and of course it goes beyond IT as we've talked about it. So let's dive into Better Cloud, right? And how does, so we've talked about a bunch of SaaS applications, talked about Salesforce, Zendesk, Dropbox, all of these. Let's zero in on just Google Apps for a minute, right? And what I want to do is I'm going to show you something that my team has worked on for a year and a half. It's incredible. I can't hype it enough. I really should just get to the demo, but I want to ask, and we're going to launch a quick poll. And one of the things that I want to know from you guys is just, the size of your organization, especially so that I can sort of try to tailor the examples that I give in the poll to sort of better cater to what you guys are actually, the realities of what you guys are dealing with. So we're going to give you just a little bit of time to fill that out. If you could, that would be super helpful to me as I give the demo. I'll be able to sort of talk through the challenges based on your size, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to keep that open for just a little bit. And Scott's on the webinar with me as well, helping me with this. And Scott, if you could just make sure those are shared with me so that I can see those, that would be super helpful.
Looks like we have about 75% voted so far, so if those last few people could get in an answer, that would be extremely helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. All right, perfect. Thank you so much for doing that. What we're going to do is we're just going to hop on into the demo. So I feel like I'm unveiling a car or something. I mean, I don't know, like some sort of like, I feel like I'm at E3. This is a brand new app that we, a brand new feature really that we built from the ground up. We spent the last year and a half. My team specifically spent the last year and a half on this. I'm very excited to show you workflows. We launched it just a couple of weeks ago. It's a brand new tool, just built from the ground up to serve the exact problem that we've been talking about this morning. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick tour, and this is only the beginning, and we'll dive in. I'll show you how it works, how you can create what we call workflows. So we talked earlier about automations, rules, that sort of thing. The tool we built is called Workflows, and it serves all of those use cases that we just talked about. And we're just going to talk about the Google Apps ecosystem today, but we'll dive in. So what you're looking at here is a workflow, the workflow builder, right? And so what you see here is the library, and then we call this middle section the workspace, and then of course properties. So we're going to give this workflow a name. We'll just call it demo. We'll be super creative this morning. And the first thing you do is you add an event to the workflow, because you can see it's very much a Mad Lib statement of when something happens, if this condition is true, then perform these actions. So let's take an example like group membership, which is something that I've heard can be a huge time sink for you guys. So just making sure that the right people are added to the right groups on a regular basis, right? So let's say when a user is moved to the Atlanta org unit, or let's just say the product. So I work on the product team. The product org unit, then we want to make sure they're added to the right groups, right? And so what I did is I added when a user is moved to an org unit. The event starts off very broad when any user is moved to any org unit. And then if I go in here, I can either click here or click this tab up here. I get to see my conditions, and let's say I want to base it off of an org unit, and we'll call it Atlanta, or excuse me, product team. I got to get my names right here. All right, we'll call it the product team. And then if I go in here to my then I see my actions. So right now we built a workflow that says when any user is added to the product team, what do we want to do? Now a lot of the actions you're going to see are specifically meant to solve the offboarding use case, because as we spoke with, and we'll go through a scenario for that as well, but as we spoke to IT admins, that seemed like the greatest need. There just aren't enough really, really good tools that deal with the offboarding scenario. So we'll go through another one in just a second. But for the purposes of this example, let's say I just want to add them to groups, right? Like so I can, and I know there are probably at least 3 or 4 groups that they should be a member of. They should definitely be a member of the product team group. That makes sense, right? They should be a member of the engineering group because they definitely work with engineering. And since our product team works in Atlanta, we'll go ahead and add them to the Atlanta group. And since we're here, we'll go ahead and share a calendar with them. And I believe there's a calendar called Atlanta Office Events. And we'll go ahead and give them view permissions. And then let's go ahead and make sure they're visible in the directory just in case there's some, for some reason they're hidden. So we'll make sure they're visible in the directory. And so there's just a very simple workflow. When someone's added to the product team, you want to make sure they're in the right group, that they're the office that they're in, their office calendar is shared with them, and that they're just visible to their coworkers. This is a really simple, customizable workflow, right? And so let's say I want to save this. I'm going to go ahead and activate it. We'll go back into it in just a second. All right, so now we're back into the workflow, and let's say you realize, oh man, there's like 3 or 4 other groups that I want to add them to. Well, you know, in the past or with other tools, you'd have to write a custom script, or you'd have to go in and change the code, and it's really as simple as just clicking 3 times. Now you can add 3 more groups that you want that you would like to add them to. Editing a workflow is so easy. If someone comes to you with an additional requirement, and it gives you just the ability to say yes more, and that's so exciting. So let's go through. What we'll do is I'll discard these changes, and I'll go back to the manager in just a second. You can just so that you guys can see as you create a workflow, you're able to manage them here. Let me go in here and go back to the manager. Let me give that a second. There we go. All right. So let's go through the deprovision example or the offboarding example. Let's say you want to build a workflow that says, you know, when a user is suspended, let's say then I want to kick off some deprovision related activities. And what we've seen is we've seen offboarding happen in phases, right? We've seen the first phase of offboarding is all about access. You want to make sure, like, they are no longer with your organization. You want to make sure they cannot get into any application, any system. They can't get to anything. So let's just do that. Let's just work on access. Let's delete their 2-step backup codes in case you're using 2-factor authentication. Let's delete app-specific passwords, and let's go in here and let's also reset their password. Now, if any of you that are familiar with custom scripts, you know that some of the APIs are actually not available to us if the user is suspended. So what we've done is we've built an unsuspend user action, right? And so you can very, very quickly unsuspend the user, and let's say this is all you want to do, and then at the end you can resuspend them, right? So it would unsuspend them in the API, perform all these actions, and then resuspend them, so that they really don't ever actually, this happens within seconds, so they're never really going to have access. But let's say, for just to continue this example on, we want to build an even more complex workflow. Let's say we want to, so now we've reset their password, we've deleted app-specific passwords, we've deleted their backup codes. Now we want to talk about who gets their stuff. The next phase is usually, what do we do with all of the digital assets that have been created by this person over the span of whether it was a year or 5 years, as with our earlier example. So let's go down here. We can definitely transfer drive files. All you'd have to do is put in the user here. We could definitely transfer the group ownership. We could transfer secondary calendars. We could transfer sites. All of this, some of these might apply to you, some of them won't. And what's great is that you can build your custom offboarding workflow right here in the UI. It's incredibly easy to do. And let's say now we want to go back to, we've transferred everything that they own, but now we want to make sure, because maybe the last step in your offboarding process isn't to delete a user, right? Maybe they hang around for a while. You might want to remove them from certain things. So let's say you want to remove them from all groups. Here, we'll go ahead and just select all groups here. You want to remove them from any shared calendars, remove them from any sites, because the last step is they're suspended, right? Maybe they're just resuspended, they hang out for a little while. But just while we're in here, while we're giving you the tour, you can see that you're also able to even assign licenses. So let's say the last step for you is assign a Vault license or a Vault former employee license. All of those things are available to you from an offboarding perspective. And guys, really, this is what makes me so excited about this tool. You guys can see that I'm enthusiastic. Is that this is just the beginning, right? We've given just a couple of examples of just the group membership management and the offboarding workflows. You can see all of that story is something we're very passionate about. We're absolutely going to keep solving, and we're going to rely on you. We're going to partner with you. You are our champions, so we're going to make sure that you have what you need in order to be successful. So what I want to do, actually, as we're going to launch, I want to show you some of the feedback that we've gotten. This has been really, really awesome. You know, so when we did a trusted tester and beta program for over 6 months, and they said, you know, we surveyed hundreds of customers. They said, this is absolutely going to have an impact on my organization. 100%. You guys saw, I demoed it for you just a few seconds ago. Workflows are easy to use. We looked at the tools that were available to you. We thought it was crazy that you had to write code to make a change to a workflow. So we made sure you didn't have to do that. They're absolutely easy to use. They're 100% essential to your organization. So here's a great quote from my friend Tyler at School of Rock. Really, really huge time savings, that sort of thing. So what I want to do is I'm going to invite you. We have, just so you know, we're going to launch a poll right now. We have blocked off time on our calendars to work with you and only you, attendees of the Cloud IT webinar. You can sign up for a one-on-one consultation to look at just workflows. We will help you build workflows. We'll show it how it can work just for your organization. We've blocked off the next 2 weeks just to work directly with you. And the feedback that we've gotten from customers has been tremendous. I mean, just a couple of days ago, I was talking to someone who wanted me to create folders in the workflow manager because he's already created over 25 workflows and he needs an easy way to organize them. I talked to someone who's already suspended and then deleted over hundreds of users that were just this backlog of users that they were working with. So I think this has a tremendous opportunity to impact your organization, and really this is something that's special. Like, we're not doing this with anyone else. You know, this is a free one-on-one consultation for you guys. We'd love to talk to you about how workflows can impact your business. You know, please, definitely, we're going to keep the poll open, and of course I'll show you share my contact information here as well, and then Scott, I'll kick it over to you. Just you tell me when is a good time to move on.
Thanks, Nate. We've had about 70% vote, so if the last 30% could come on in and answer the poll, that would be great. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, now would be a great time to ask. We're actually going to take a few questions at the end of this session. So if you have any questions about workflows, feel free to ask them in the GoToWebinar app.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is great. And again, this is only the beginning. What you saw was with Google Apps. You can see that we are well aware of the Slack of people using Slack instead of Hangouts, of people using Dropbox instead of Drive, or maybe Drive and Dropbox, or maybe Hangouts and Slack. And when you went to the demo, you saw Google was not actually hidden as if it were just a native part of the Google integration, but it's actually exposed. So you can imagine Slack actions, Zendesk actions, Dropbox actions. So there's really a lot we're going to be able to do to serve that user lifecycle management story for you guys. So really, really excited to meet with and talk with you guys about this. I hope you take us up on this.
Hey Nate, it's David. I'm going to jump in and answer some of these questions that have come in. One of the questions, actually we've gotten about 3 questions here that have come in about whether this is going to be available, this session is going to be available after this for viewing. So it'll be posted on live.bettercloud.com. It'll be sent to you. It'll be posted on live.bettercloud.com by the end of the day. And so you'll have this. You can share with your team. Another question that came in is, what is the pricing for workflows? So workflows is right now available in Better Cloud Enterprise. So it's included functionality in Better Cloud Enterprise. So that was a couple of questions here. Nate, you spoke a little bit about the other applications that we're going to be connecting into. What I would say is this is really what Nate and his team has put together here is really just the beginning. We've got, I'd say, between now and the end of the year, there's I would stay tuned for a couple really cool updates to this now that the platform is built. And like Nate said, it took 18 months actually to build this platform to be able to do what we wanted to do at the scale we wanted to do it. You know, when you're talking about an API-based approach like we've taken across the tens of millions of users that our customers are managing, we took quite a bit of time to build the platform, and now that that is built, we'll be adding integrations, we'll be adding triggers. I think one of the interesting ones that came up here in the questions is around HR systems, and will HR systems be able to trigger workflows? Will there be events from HR systems? And that's definitely high up on our list. You know, yeah, I mean, I think Nate's looked at that. That seems to be an obvious way to kick off these workflows. There's a couple questions here, Nate. Maybe you can talk about. One of them is, what does it mean to monitor a user's email in one of the actions? It's a very specific question, but that came in around one of the actions.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can even hop back over to the UI to show that.
Yeah, let me close the poll.
What that does is it actually it creates it allows you to actually monitor either the incoming and the outgoing, to see either just the header, that is like the snippet, or to see the full message. And what it does is it creates a monitoring pairing. And there are lots of Google rules around how that works exactly, and you know, our support team can help you through that. But what it allows you to do is, even as part of the deprovisioning process, or maybe there are some other special reason that you might need to monitor a particular person's inbox, you can create either a monitoring pairing, or maybe instead of monitoring their email because they're no longer there, you could delegate their inbox and grant someone else access to that email as well. But it allows you, essentially, a monitoring pairing allows you to actually just, without having access to their email, you're able to see the emails that they are getting and the emails that they are sending.
Nate, can you just tell everyone how to get to, there's a couple questions here. Are Better Cloud and Workflows separate products? How exactly do I get to Workflows?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you can see here, obviously, if you've been a Better Cloud customer, if you've been a part of a Better Cloud trial, you can see this is somewhat of a new Better Cloud experience. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to click back to Better Cloud here, so you guys can see that it's part of our application. It's right up there in the top nav. As soon as you log in, you'll see a Workflows button in the top. All you have to do is click that. It's going to load the new left nav experience. Eventually, you're going to see all of those top nav items in the left nav in some shape or form, and that would take you straight to workflows. So it's really, can't miss it. It's up in the top navigation.
Another specific question, is there a plan to add when user is added/removed from group trigger? Or
absolutely, and that's coming very soon. I'm very excited about that one. That's something that we've heard loud and clear. That is coming very soon. When a user is added to a group or when a user is removed from a group.
Okay. Is this tool open and programmable? Example: what if I wanted to create a custom action of my own and add it to your workflow engine?
Yeah, that is a great question. It's absolutely something we've heard from customers and partners, and I'll say, like as David said earlier, this is a platform, and something that that's one of the reasons why we spent so much time on it, and we're absolutely headed that direction. I don't know when. I can tell you probably not this year, but we're absolutely headed in that direction to allow you to create. You might have an on-prem system or some other custom script you want to run, and the foundation is set for you to be able to do that. And we're definitely planning on making that a possibility for you.
Yeah, I would add to that. I think what we've heard, especially from our partners, service partners who implement Better Cloud, we've heard from many of them that they want to be able to add services around workflows. They'd like to be able to build custom integrations for their customers. They'd like to be able to connect to SaaS applications that we may not connect to natively. And so we know that opening this up for customers, and also really, I think for partners, and allowing them to build on top of this is going to be very important. There's a couple other questions here. Let me see. Will there be a share Google Drive folder action at some point?
Yes, there will. Absolutely. It is pretty high up on my backlog.
Great. So if you guys need anything, Nate, I think in your presentation you have your email address there. Maybe you can show that to everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Feel free to reach out to me directly.
So if anyone wants to bother Nate, it's nate@bettercloud.com, and he can. We're really, I mean, honestly, this is something we're really excited about. Like Nate said, we've spent a lot of time working on it, and I personally have spent about 6 years now in this SaaS ecosystem, especially around messaging, collaboration. The whole Google stack, Office 365. I have yet to see anything like this in the SaaS world. Of course, there are tools like this. There are consumer tools like If This Then That, and there are tools for legacy environment that do scripting and imaging of users. But in a SaaS environment, to me, I have yet to see something at this depth, this granularity, this scale, this secure. So we're really excited, and I appreciate you taking the time today to share this with everyone. So there's a lot more questions here. I mean, I think we're over time, so I'm getting the message here that we have to end this session. But we have a lot of questions here. If we did not get to them, somebody from our team will follow up with answers. And again, you've got Nate's email there, and you can reach out to him if you have ideas for actions or triggers, events, SaaS apps you want to see this integrated with. Yeah. This is what we're focusing on. You're going to see a lot here over the next 6 months between now and the end of the year. I promise you're going to see a lot coming. A lot of the triggers you've asked for, actions you've asked for, other SaaS application integrations you've asked for. You'll see a lot of that coming, and we'll communicate that to you over the next 6 months. So, thank you very much, Nate. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.